Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, and creatives from around the globe. We are here at our final presentation of NAB NYC 2023 here at the Maxon booth, showcasing Maxon 1 and how our artists are using it to create some of the most epic things that you see on screen. And up next to close us out is the one, the only, longtime educator, amazing artist, all around amazing person, Eran. Let's give him a round of applause, folks.
I'm applauding myself. Yes. Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. Welcome the internet. The entire internet is watching me. Yes. All right. So let's just look at these fancy titles once again. Just because I put a lot of time and effort creating them. Wow, this is so nice, which is totally off topic. I'm not going to cover how I did it. So hello, everyone. My name is Eran. I'm a motion designer, content creator, as well as a worried citizen because my family is still in Israel. So I'm going to use your help to escape out of those monstrosities during the next hour or so. Thank you very much for helping me. A deep breath, and I'm going to tell you that what I'm doing most of my days is I watch progress bars. And I want to help you to make the progress bars a little bit shorter, if possible, work a little bit more efficiently, and hopefully I will manage to do this in the next hour. So here is a short teaser of what we are going to create. You know, everyone needs an astronaut on its story, right? So here we go. This is my version. And I'm actually, the footage itself is on my way to the leisure center gym, of course, and the astronaut is not really there, but we're going to make it appear as if it is. So if you'll join me, I'll show you how to combine video and 3D using After Effects and Cinema 4D. You all know how to read English. I will read it with you just to make sure that I'm on the brief. So first, I'll show you how to export After Effects composition to Cinema 4D. It's a built-in feature inside After Effects, and it's going to help us to just move the entire 3D composition, if we have 3D layers, and start over there, so we can actually approve it with the client. I'm going to use Cineware for mockup purposes, which is a great way to interact or bring stuff from Cinema 4D without rendering them, and then create some sort of a preview, and then once I get a sign-off from the client, I can take out the big guns, which is going to be Redshift and Aces. So I'll speak about both of them inside Cinema 4D as well as inside After Effects. So stay tuned. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I'm not going to tell you what it stands for, not now at least. And I'll show you how to add some extra stuff, make sure that we are defining the correct color space. All right, so this is it. Not too many slides. However, After Effects is already waiting underneath. So, as I showed you before, this is the scene that I've created, actually captured. What I did create, I can switch off the speaker here, is I already applied the 3D camera tracker. I'll pause the playback so you'll see tons of trackers here. And I'm actually I feel more comfortable using these instead of doing the same thing inside Cinema, which is a possibility, and probably you are going to get very good results, but, not 0.5. I think it's good enough. So anything under 1 should be considered good. And the way to check it is to create some sort of a floor here. So you can right-click and you can create a solid. I already did it. I named my solid floor. And surprise, surprise, I already placed the grid. So if I press spacebar, I can just see that everything is aligning correctly, and I can now start to integrate 3D objects using Cinema 4D. So let's say that I'm happy with what I have here. I'll switch off the visibility of this layer, and I want to move it to Cinema 4D. So the easiest way to work here is to go to the File menu, and then under Export, I've got the biggest cursor in the world, so it's a little bit challenging. I need to choose Maxon Cinema 4D Exporter, which is built into After Effects. And this is going to give you a warning. I hope Adobe is going to fix it. It looks like something is broken. It's not. It's just giving us the indication that 2D layers are found and these are not going to be exported. All right, thank you very much. The only option is, okay, So I'll click OK. I'll click OK again. I'll get the spinning beach ball. And finally, I can save my scene. So I'll press Control D, actually Command, and save it in my favorite place in the world, the most cleanest place, which is the desktop. And then I'll bring Cinema on top. I'll go to Open Project because what I've just created effectively is a Cinema 4D project. I'll navigate to the desktop and here we go. I'll click Open. And if I'll scrub the mini timeline here, we can see our floor survived, as well as a null object that was created especially for us. Notice the name of the null is the name of the project, and then hyphen and the name of the composition. So make sure not to touch this null. This is the biggest takeaway here, because this is basically compensating between the 3D coordinate system of Cinema and After Effects. I'm sure that you know, but just to rub it in, I'll switch to After Effects. I'll press Control or Command R and show you that in terms of 0 point, it's over there at the topmost up corner. Now, the 0 point for the Z is in the middle, but every other application in the world measuring it in a regular way. So the 0 point basically is in the middle. So this null is doing all the coordinates compensation. As you can see, we are getting this negative 960 divided to 550 for the Y. I'm saying divided because it's basically dividing the 1080p by 2. Anyhow, don't get rid of this. Don't be too organized. It's going to come and hunt you in the end. So I'll make sure that it stays. Now I can also see the noodle path of my camera tracker as well as the floor. Now, if I want to check that everything is working, and by default, I must tell you, I'll just quickly click on the render settings, that After Effects, when it created this composition, always used the standard renderer. Now, standard renderer, not Redshift, is a great way to work with Cineware in case you're just building the scene and you just want to make sure that everything works, again, before getting into the more expensive render time. So, this is just between us, so you'll know what I'm talking about. I'm going to just make a little room so I can create another material, and the material is going to be part of the background. So I'm going to drag and drop it over here and then double click, and maybe I think I'll double click it over here. And what I want to show you is that I want to check that everything really survived and the coordinates is the same. I don't trust technology. I hate computers. Anyhow, so I'll click on this little folder. I'll navigate to where I have the file. So I'm clicking, but it doesn't work. Oh, it does work. So here is my folder, and this is very, very interesting. I know, almost like looking at how paint is drying, but here it is finally. And I'm going to say, yes, why not? This is the last session. I'm going to bring more stuff to the desktop. Now, this is the texture, but we need to do some modifications. So I'll go to the viewport. I'll make sure that I'm ticking Animate Preview. So I'm actually asking Cinema 4D to use the video, as well as change the whatever scaling to no scaling. So in other words, now if I click play, I should be exactly at the same place where I was a moment ago inside After Effects. Now, if these grids are bothering you the same way they are bothering me, you can switch off the work plane and you can also switch off the horizon. Again, we don't really need them for this instance. We just want to make sure things are aligning. I'm also going to save my progress, which is going to tell me that this project was created using an older version than what I'm using. I'm going to say yes and update it to the recent one. All right, so now we need to bring the talent. Now we need to bring the astronaut. I'll switch off momentarily the floor, and I'm going to quickly visit this link because you can, if you want, use the same model that I'm using from Domenico Alisa. I'm probably butchering the name. Anyhow, this is a great model, which is totally free. The only problem, I'm not sure of problem, maybe limitation, it doesn't have a T pose, it's got an A pose. However, if we're going to follow what Joe just showed us in the previous session, we can, and I already did it ahead of time, bring it into Maxon, which will be very happy to accept both T pose and A poses, and then attach some sort of an automated rig, animated rig to this guy. And as you guessed it, I did it ahead of time. So I'll go and open up the astronaut project here, and I'll walk you through what I have. So this is the same thing. I obviously changed the colors of the suit, and I got him a new boots, really shiny boots, because I love astronauts so much. If I play this guy, the Maxon ring is also, I've also added to it the vibrate tag. So it's just floating a little bit more instead of just, doing this number without any motion. And this is almost like, if you're coming from After Effects, this is almost like wiggle in 3D. So depending on what you want to do, you can change the frequency, you can change the amplitude. I'm just going to exaggerate for a moment so you can see. And you can do very funny or stupid things depending on, what you want to do. I'll undo the last modifications. And now what I want to do is just bring this guy. So I'm also going to take the two lights that I carefully placed around him and copy them to the memory using the secret key combination Command key. Command C. And then I'll paste it over here. I'll say yes to bring the materials. And with any luck, this is going to be synced into our camera motion. And if it doesn't, then you just move it to the place. So easy. So now what I would like to do is see how this works inside After Effects, get a client approval. Now, obviously, I can render it from here, but I want some shadows maybe on the ground and other stuff. So this is the purpose of this floor here, right? And I can also, just in case, because, you are so nice, I'm going to go a little bit closer, get the reflections more or less obey the environment over here, if I like. And, we have some time, so let's just add a sky object over here. And we can use the same material that we used for the other stuff. And this is going to serve as a reflection catcher, I guess. And I don't want to see it, so I'll go to the rendering tags, composition tags. Let's see, it's always, they are moving it to different places. So let's see if I can find it. If not, I can always hunt for it by searching. But I'm just curious to see if I can find it. I think it's over here, compositing. So I don't want this one, the sky object, to be seen by the camera. I'm going to switch it off. However, if I press Control or Command R, the reflections now are a bit more realistic. Now, the purpose that I brought the lights here is because those lights, if I go to shadow, maybe this is not the one, but this one is using shadow mapping, so soft shadows are being casted on the floor. All right, now if I bring it like in this situation, like this to After Effects, I need to deal somehow with the floor because the floor is necessary to see the shadows. So what I'll do is do this really simple number. I'll move to the layers panel. So layers is very useful feature inside Cinema 4D. If you work with any other layer-based compositor, you know how to use them. I'll create a new layer. I'll call this guy Shadows. And then I'll take the floor and just drag it underneath. And you can see this little color tag, which tells me that this is now part of it. And finally, I'll save my progress. Now, I'll switch to After Effects. I'll go to the project panel. I'll double-click to invoke the imports dialog. This is the file that I just finished working. I'll open it. On the PC side, by the way, it says imports. Anyhow, so many unuseful things here. I'll just place it above everything. And this, of course, is going to use the Cineware engine to render it above everything in real time. Now, first, I'll change the renderer from viewport draft. You can actually use current draft if you just want to see the object. But I'm just going to use the final one. By current, it means either Redshift or Octane or whatever you have in Cinema. So right now we are using the standard renderer. Thank you, After Effects. Let's just tell After Effects to not bother us with some coach marks. We know what we are doing. All right, so now this is already really responsive or relatively fast, so I can judge how this looks. However, I need to separate the astronaut from its shadows. So I will enable Cinema 4D layers, which is part of Cineware. I'll click on Set Layers, I'll switch off the shadows, and the shadows are gone. So now I need to bring them back. So what I'll do is I'll duplicate this. There are a few ways to do it. You can also use passes, but I'll keep the passes thing to the Redshift, so I don't want to steal my own thunder. So let's say that this one, I'm just going to rename it Shadows, just so I'll know what it does next week when I'll open this project. And I'll go back to set layers, re-enable the shadows, and wait for it. Here it is. I'll switch it to multiply. So I'm going to take care of most of the white in the picture. Over here, we are seeing there are some leftovers due to the light. We can leave it for preview purposes, but since I'm so compulsive, I'm just going to grab a simple mask around this area, subtract this. You can also feather it if you like. So I will have just the lights. Now, because this is basically a pixel-based renderer, I mean, everything is being handled using Cinema 4D and delivered to the After Effects buffer, I can add effects on top of it. So if I go to, let's just do it the analog way, open up the blur and sharpen and have a go with a fast box blur, and maybe just tell it to blur, I don't know, 3, maybe it's just too much, but 2. I can also press T for opacity and reduce it to 85. So I have some controls over here, which is great. And again, I'm not committing to anything. I have a dynamic link between Cinema and After Effects. So if I'm calling my client with this, let's say, amazing style frame, and I got some, I don't know, comments or amendments to change the color of the helmet, I can easily switch to Cinema, change the material over there, save, and everything is going to ripple through. So I know you believe me, I don't need to show you how to do it. It will take some time to render. As you can see, After Effects starts caching it in the background. And because I love you so much, I have a ready comp for you. So let's just double click on this. This comp has exactly the same thing. However, I render it before. But After Effects doesn't want to play it. Let's force it. No, it doesn't want to play it. Let's go back. Let's go back again. Let's do this number of purging the cache. And if this doesn't work, I'm going to pause my session and I'm going to open a support call with Adobe right now in front of you until it's going to get sorted. No, I'm not going to do it. I'm just going to ask After Effects for favors. Yes, crush in front of the entire world. I'm not sending any reports. I'm just going to hide Cinema because I do want to show you how this would look. So I will start my presentation all over again. Are you ready to see the last 18 minutes again? Excellent. Me too. However, with any luck, we are going to make After Effects work. We are going to show it who is the boss. So everyone loves to see someone who is failing and falling, right? This is what I'm giving it. This is what I'm trying to do. It doesn't work. Oh my God. But I'll do the next best thing. I'll do reveal in Finder, and I'll play it for you from the Finder. I didn't need it to crash After Effects. So what I wanted to show you is that you can also add effects such as levels and other stuff. And this is what I'm actually going to send to my client for review. So let's assume he says yes, everything is good, and I can actually start the comp. Now, I can't really start the comp because for some reason, After Effects doesn't want to work. Again, let me just do some housekeeping. See if I can force After Effects to work. This is so fun. Maybe caps lock is turned on. Oh my God. Okay, this comp seems to lower. No. Any suggestions? What should I do? I do need After Effects to work. Let's just try to kill Cinema 4D for now and see if this is actually going to help us. No, we're not going to save anything because, we actually need this to work. So we'll close the project, we'll not save it. And we'll try to do it again. Don't worry. My blood pressure is still the same. This doesn't get to me at all. I'm not afraid of crashes. Let's just stare at the new splash screen for a few moments. All right. Nice beach ball. Let's wait for it. I hope that now it will work. Otherwise, I'll need to move to the PC, which is, I don't know, a disaster. It does! Yes! We showed After Effects who is the boss. All right, so now we are ready for the next step. And the next step is actually to prepare everything that I showed you and create a Redshift version. And because I spend so much time wasting time, I'm actually going to use one of my files that I've already created. So I'm just going to, first, you know what? Let's visit this guy. So this is the next, almost the last step. Also, very nice splash screen. And the biggest beaches word in the world. And I guess I need to double click again. So both, I'm getting a lot of love from both After Effects and Cinema. And let's just, for the time being, let's just hide the floor. And the reason that I'm just opening this again is to show you that, as I told you, when we are exporting stuff from After Effects to Cinema, we will get the standard renderer, right? So now, when we are ready to move to something more advanced, we need to go to the render settings and change it. Oops, actually here it's on physical to Redshift. Now the problem, it's not really a problem, it's a limitation, that we need to also translate all the materials. So we can do it manually, or I'm just going to use one example. We can select the material over here, go to the material options, or actually material tools, and we have few options to choose from. So we can convert all the materials, we can convert a specific one, we can either use nodes or the other system, doesn't really matter, so depending how you want to work. I'm just going to show you an example by doing this, and it didn't work, so let's do it again. Tools, convert, you can also convert and replace. Let's just do okay. Now this is working, so now I'm getting a Redshift material after another circulation with the beach ball, and finally I can start to create the materials which are going to work better for the Redshift. So I'm not going to do this in front of you. This is so boring. Instead, I took the liberty and prepared it over here. So I've got this version which is almost identical, but all the materials here are already being converted to Redshift. Now, we want to have maximum control when we are going to bring it to After Effects. And by maximum control, let's imagine that this is going to be a trailer for a movie, right? So we want to respect the industry color grading or color method system, which is, of course, ACES. Now, the good news is that if I go over here to the render settings, I'm still using Redshift, and I'll click on the Redshift options. I'll go to globals. You can see that by default, Redshift is already using the correct rendering color space. So in this case, ACES CG, and it's going to do the conversion to whatever I'm using. Most of us are going to use sRGB as our output monitor. So this is already done and ready for us inside Cinema. However, in After Effects, we need to do some pre-setup before we can render it. But I'm actually assuming that you know what I'm talking about. And just in case you don't know what it's all about, I've got two more slides for you. So OpenColor.io input-output is a color management solution used primarily in motion picture productions that helps enforce a color management methodology, which is required for high-fidelity color imaging. So think about it almost like a big room with new rules, and inside these rules we have some similar things to lookup tables, some tables or some things that we can use, and the outcome of this is that everyone who is going to get this file is going to make sure, the colors are going to stay persistent, as you can read. I'm not going to read this one. And this becomes now the industry standard. And the good news is that After Effects supports this natively. So if we want to make sure that After Effects will get it correctly, by default, as you can see, it is set to 8 bits per channel. So I'm going to first prepare After Effects, and then I'll show you how to render it inside Redshift. I'll click on this. This is actually a button. which is going to conveniently open the project settings and show me the third tab. Third tab from the sun. Never mind, forget it. Anyhow, so I'll switch Color Engine to Open Color I/O Managed, and it will tell me that colors are going to look totally different. Thank you, it's so important. Since I'm working with this new color engine, again, built into After Effects, it's a very wise idea to also switch the project to 32 bits per channel, parentheses, float. Now over here we can see this is the working color space, and this should match whatever you are seeing in Redshift or in Cinema if you're using a different render engine. So you've got a lot of stuff to pick from. And notice that you also can show all, which is going to show you everything in the world, all the profiles from all the cameras available, and of course you can import them. And again, like in Cinema, I'm actually going to use the color display, so I'm going to translate from ACES to sRGB, so everything should look correctly. All right, so a lot of technical stuff, but it's so important, so we are going to get the same experience and everything is going to work. Now, let's switch back to Cinema. And over here in Cinema, we want as much control as possible. So again, I already did some of the heavy lifting here. The thing here is known, the passes is known as AOV passes, arbitrary output variables, which is just different types of per pixel information that Redshift can produce. And over here, when I move to this, there is another button, so a lot of sub-menus, so much fun. I'm going to fill my screen with more menus, and this is the full list of everything that you can choose from. And it's a very long list, and I must be honest, I don't know each and every one of them. So these are the passes that I selected for this work. So a beauty pass, a reflections, shadows, and few other stuff. Now, this is actually something that I'm going to spend a little bit more on this. This is the object ID, what used to be an object ID. So you've got a couple of ways to work if you want to render alpha channels or matte. My favorite one is the puzzle matte, which, as you can see, set itself to object ID number 1. And you can actually change it from different IDs, so you'll have a different matte for the red, the green, and the blue. Now, the way to set it, if you can cast your eyes over here now, is to add a Redshift object. And I believe it's once again under the render tags. Here it is. All right, so I already have this ready for us. And inside this, there is an RS object. And inside this, let's go even one floor down, there is the object ID. So for every object that you want to see in After Effects as a matte, as an alpha channel, you need to set the proper object ID. So the entire astronaut, in our case, will get number 1, and then the puzzle matte will get number 1. And of course, I can add more of these. I can duplicate those passes. Now, I know it's a lot to take in, but there's more. The good news is that we don't need to save an image sequence for each one of these passes. What we can do, and I'll switch to the Save tab, I'm still in the render settings, is we can choose one of the most standard formats across the entire industry, which is OpenEXR. And over here, notice that I'm enabling the Multipass image. So I'm not even rendering the regular image. The regular image is dimmed, it's not saved. I'm only saving a multipass image. So, in other words, I'm going to create a single sequence of EXRs, but every one of these every one of those frames is going to host all the passes that I've created inside Cinema for this. So make sure you have a beefy hard drive, because each one of these files is going to be at least, 64 megabytes, or sometimes even more, depending. I was referring to 4K, but if you're working in higher resolution, maybe more. So this is something to take under account. All right, so 32 bits per channel, you can see how I'm managing it. That's it. I don't need to do anything else. I'm actually ready to render. I'm not going to render it in front of you. However, I will go to, where it is, over here, to the Redshift render view, just to check that it is actually working. I'll start the render view. I should have started it before I'm wasting so much time rendering in front of you, but it's fun. It's going to give us in few moments a result. Yes, go for it. You can do the last square. All right, while it's working, I'm going to show you that I can actually have a look at the different passes from here. And this is really critical to check it before you go and have your nice cup of tea, right? So, or coffee or whatever. So just make sure that you are getting everything that you need. Right, I see that everything is working. The shadows I should say, is a bit of a strange beast when it comes to Redshift. So I will show you how I'm handling it. It's not the official way to handle it, but it will take a little bit effort. All right, so now I'm ready, and of course I can render it. Now, obviously I'm not going to render it in front of you. I already did it, and I want to show you some magic inside After Effects. Maybe you know about this, maybe you don't. This is the way you should bring OpenEXR with multipasses into After Effects. You first import the clip by regular double-clicking. Navigate to the folder. You need to remember where you saved this. This is the most challenging part. And then you can select either one. So if you, let's say 8 is your lucky number, you can start from 8. It doesn't matter. What's important is this little tick, OpenEXR sequence. And what's more important is that instead of footage, we're going to bring it as a composition. All right? Now I'll click open, and this is going to force another dialog box. And over here, we want to import it as a, I guess footage is good enough, but if you want, you can convert or pre-compose each one of the layers. So let's just do this. And I'm also going to include a contact sheet. So let me show you what we have. First, we have this astronaut layer. Now notice that After Effects wants everything to be ACES 2065-1 for some reason. We already know this is not the correct color space. So before I'm going to continue, I'll click on the Interpret Footage icon, go to the Color tab. Again, a lot of technical stuff, but it's going to hunt you at some point. So hopefully this is not going to catch you anytime soon. And I'll change it to what I was using in Cinema as well as in After Effects. So you actually need to do this or verify it for every single footage that you are using. All right, so now that this is over, first let's have a look at the contact sheet. And this is just a composition that was created for us automatically with all the passes. This is a utility comp. You don't need to use it. This is just to show your loved ones how nice the render looks. However, if I'm going to now open the astronaut main composition, I got some text from the renderer. I'm going to say thank you. Maybe I'll get to you later. Doesn't matter for now. And notice that I've got all the passes already arranged for me. And what's best is that they have a little FX tag, meaning that each one of these, if I'll select it, already got the extractor effect, which is pulling the correct pass from the EXR render. And for those of you who never use this feature, you are going to thank me because I'm saving you, I guess, at least 5 minutes, if not more, of a headache or something else that can ache. Doesn't matter. So this is a really great starting point. I need to set up the blending mode. I also need to create the composition, but I'm saving a lot of time. So let's just do it together, because together is forever, as Rick Astley used to say. If you don't get my joke, don't worry. I don't understand them as well. I'll switch off the RGB pass. This is just, you know what? I think I'll use it. I can't remember if I need to use it or not. But let's just turn off. I mean, the beauty pass is actually the one that I'm referring to. This is almost like my reference, but let me show you, I have more control. So I'll switch off this beauty pass and I'll identify the puzzle mat. I'll drag it underneath everything, just in case you are wondering, this is how it looks. And because this is now rendered, this is buttery smooth. And what I can do is now I can actually take the RGB, I leave the shadow on its own, I'll switch it off. We're going to deal with it later, because as I told you, it's a special, not spatial. Anyhow, so RGB, reflection, GI row. All right, everyone should have the same matte, right? So I'm selecting, this is a godsend feature in After Effects. I can just, instead of doing the old number, just drag everything over here. I need to remember this is a Luma matte, right? So now everything is going to be set up for me. Let's go to the end. And I'm also going to press the period key, just so we can get a little bit of a closer look at this guy. And now I'm going to take the RGB, put it underneath. Let's work with those passes, maybe one by one. So the GI row, I tend to change this guy. And again, this is trial and error. You can have your own say here. But I think overlay is a good starting point for this one. And then if I press T, I can change the opacity of this. Is basically like the texture, right, of the uniform or the suit, whatever you want to call it. So maybe 82. 82 sounds like a good grade. And then the reflections, I'll turn them on. They should be in additive mode. Everything should be additive, not screen when you're using linear compositing. So if I'm here, I'm also going to set additive for this one. Let's just turn everything together. Now you can see that this is like 100%. All the faders are all the way to the top. But I can press T for each one of them, and I can have my own say here. So maybe the reflection, I want to reduce them to, 20%. And the other, so this is the reflection row. So it doesn't matter, whatever you want, maybe 10%. And these are the regular reflection. I can, set them to whatever I need. So I've got much more control to each and individual look. And if I save, let's say, more than just one puzzle matte, I can actually control the colors of the materials. So there is a way to actually control the materials textures in post. And I have a full tutorial on my YouTube channel, and I'm going to show it to you at the end, at least the address for it. So if you want to see how this was done, I'm not going to go into this in this demo. But for now, I think I'm quite ready to create some sort of a nice mix. So I'm going to copy the shadow pass. I'll return to where I am. I'll take the astronaut layer. I'll bring it on top of everything, right? It's synced with the thing. And then let's just bring back the shadows. So again, the shadows needs a little bit of a different attention. And depending on how you work with it, this, you have a couple of approaches over here. So first what I'll do, let's just do the index search. I'll look for, not this one, but invert. And I'll invert the colors, right? So I'll get something that I can actually multiply. And again, the reason that we are seeing it is because Redshift is rendering shadows a little bit differently. And there's a lot of details that I can take from this. So one way to work is to use these black and white points. But I think a little bit of an easier approach is just use levels. So I'll take levels, and this is going to help me to actually determine how dark the shadows are. And of course, let's also go with some soft blur, so Gaussian blur, and we're just going to smooth it as much as needed. I'm going to borrow the levels effect. I'll copy it. I'll paste it on the astronauts. I'll start fresh because I think that I can maybe, at least at the beginning when he is back at the distance, I can just, use this to fade it just a little bit more nicer. I'll go to the green, maybe play a bit with the green gamma, so colors are going to look a little bit better. And obviously I can animate the entire thing. So you can click on the histogram, and over time I can go to the RGB. I just feel more comfortable using curves or levels, but totally up to you. All right, so hopefully you are happy from what you are seeing. We can obviously have a look at it. And now when we have something that we are ready to render, we are not going to render anything. We are going to return to the project panel. While this is a really good, cool thing in After Effects, there's this uninterrupted render. After Effects is rendering, and I can look at my files here and figure out where I saved, things that I want to use. So I guess it's over here in the source files. So I have few stock footages that I think will contribute to the entire thing. Now, before I use them, I just want to make sure that you understand we are still working in the ACES environment. And I already took the time and changed the profile for each one of them, because these are stock images, stock footage. So Artbeat or Adobe Stock, most of them are using Rec 709. By default, every time you are dragging something into the After Effects project and you change it to the ACES workflow, it wants to work with the ACES profile. And in order for it to look good, you need to make sure to visit the color tab in the Interpret Footage and select the correct media color space. So remember that I told you that you can display everything. You can see I'm showing all. If you're working, let's say, with an ARRI footage or red footage, you need to make sure you are attaching the correct, I'm going to say it, profile, almost like lookup table, depending on how you want to call it. No one cares. Just make sure that it will look correct. If you can't find it, there are a few general things that you can start from, like this, like raw utility or like general 2020, but make sure to do it. Otherwise, everything is going to look either too crushed or too dark. So really important stuff. So now I can just bring, I thought that I switched it off. But I crashed After Effects. Right, yeah. I have a dialogue here with Chris, which is one of my TAs. And you can't see it, but I can see him. So let's just bring a few of those elements. Let's start with the dust. And of course, now I can really use, same methodology. So let's just bring it to the add blending mode and press T, reduce the opacity to 80. It's creating some sort of a blue tint here, which you may or may not like. So I'm not going to like it. I'll apply the CC toner effect, keeping the default sepia look, which I think works just brilliant with this. And this is going to add some, dust particles. I can do it using particular, but I need to actually catch a flight. So I'm not going to do this. Instead, I'm just going to add few more extra layers like this stock footage of an amazing flare. I'll change it because we must have not only astronaut, but also lens flares. Let's go with 50% fog. Why not? Let's bring some fog above everything. Everything, I guess, wants to be in the additive blending mode and probably not too hard, so maybe 50%. This is not going to be useful for us, but smoke. So I've got a nice smoke footage. Maybe I want to start it from here. And you know what? Because we are working actually with a 3D tracker camera, we can actually take advantage of the vanishing point here. So we can turn this smoke to a 3D card in space, press S, or you can go to the properties panel. How about this? I can see the scale over here. I don't need to press S. I can scale it without opening anything in the timeline. Yes, I saved you another 3 milliseconds. Let's just move it to add, and then maybe drag it a little bit over here, change the opacity. And the benefit of, adding this as a 3D card is that it is actually moving. It creates some sort of a fake depth. It's moving with everything. And of course, I can put it behind the astronaut. So now I'm doing like a 2D, 3D compositing. You get the drift. You know how this is working. So I'm quite happy with what I have here. I can now add my final looks, adjustment layer above everything. I'm so compulsive. I'll name it looks. You don't need to. And I'll hunt for the looks plugin. I'll click edit. I'm going to hover over here on top of the looks. And this is super cool because I can just take a peek of how everything, if it combines nicely together, how I can just create some different atmosphere using one of the presets. So I happen to know that if I scroll enough, I should get to, it comes, here it comes, here it comes, I should get to, not yet. There is a specific one that I'm after. But obviously, I won't find it right now, right? So let's see. It's kind of a bluish one. This is so interesting. Looking at me, hunting for, but I'm really after something that I think will work nicely. If I can't find it in the next 1, 2, 3, 5 seconds, I'm going to just use this guy. And whatever. I'm going to, if I need to change the strength here or do whatever I want. So now I've got all these ingredients that can completely change the entire atmosphere of the shot. So let's just call this one okay. And I'm also going to add another levels effect just to introduce a bit more contrast, because I believe it will look even better. And I was looking for something a little bit more, let's go with the red, bluish, so something along those lines. And you will see why I'm creating this look in a moment. But I think this is already looks quite impressive, and I'm ready to render. However, we are creating something for our showreel, right? So we need to place this iPhone thing that I showed you at the beginning. So let's just do this. I'll save some time, and I'll just show you my magic phone comp. So I'm going to first solo this layer, sorry, not the speaker, but this layer. So this is the stock footage that I got from Adobe Stock, and I'm actually using Keylight. So this is the original without. So first I'm keying out the blue color. Everyone needs to be super concentrated because it is so simple. Then I'm going to enable the first layer, which is going to be basically matted inside. So this is the comp that I just finished showing to you, which is basically the same comp as the original. So I can now bring back the original underneath and put some camera lens blur, animate it to create some sort of a rack focus effect when whoever, it's not me, obviously, I don't have these nails, so when she moves her hand. And if I'm going to take a look at the entire thing and preview it, you can see how this works in concert. You will see these tiny bits of grain, particles grain, and the smoke and everything. And I think it's going to be super viral, and I will have million subscribers by the time I will get home. Hopefully I will be able to monetize on it. But then again, this is not the outcome of this. Hopefully you got something out of this session. And if not, it's really cool stuff. At least technically you know how to work with Redshift materials, as well as create an ACES comp both inside After Effects and inside Cinema 4D. So all I have to say is thank you. You were my best student so far. If you want more of me, make sure to like, subscribe, or do whatever you fancy. This is the best deal in the world. At least one tutorial every time, every week. And if you want everything that I've created, make sure to have a snapshot, take a snapshot of this quick response code. Thank you so much.
All right, Eran Stern, everyone. Excellent. That will be our conclusion of presentations for this afternoon. If you can't get enough and you want more, definitely go to maxon.net, go to the Learn section, and check out Cineversity, as well as all of our upcoming events, as well as training that we have going on all the time. So Simon Walker and the training team there always has different things, from ZBrush Live, VFX and Chill, and of course the upcoming DAT Tour. And that's for everybody in Europe, as well as in Miami is our final location here in the US, closing out the tour. And for that, just go to GoToDat, that's GOTODAT, and check out all the different locations and dates. And we will see you at the next one. Ciao.